If you're thinking of moving to Canada, there's a word that you have to get very familiar with. It's a word that begins with the letter C and ends with the letter T. And yes, guys, talking about your credit. Hi, guys, welcome back to another video. My name is Dems. Thank you guys so much for coming back to another video. If you guys are new here, take a second, hit that subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up, and drop a comment. Let me know what you think about this video. Let me know what you think about this topic. In today's video, guys, we're going to be talking about the credit system in Canada, especially from a new immigrant perspective. Now, for a little bit of background for all the persons who are new, I am here in Alberta, living in a beautiful town called Grand Prairie, right? And I came to Canada as an international student, and I'm going to be sharing my story with you guys, how I was able to improve my credit from poor credit to good credit while being in Canada. Now, if this is the content that you're interested in, stick around. Before coming to Canada, I had no idea of what the credit system was like, how it worked, how beneficial it was, how challenging it was, or how detrimental it was to your well being, to your survival, to your existence of living in Canada. So, when I made the transition to Canada, all my knowledge was from Jamaica. Now, Jamaica, there was credit, but the reliance of credit wasn't as significant as it was in Canada. So in Jamaica, when you borrow credit, at the time, things might change now. There wasn't what is called a credit score that determines the type of job you get, type of apartment you get to rent, your standard of living pretty much. But coming to Canada, that's how it was. And that was one of the culture shock for me. Now, when I came to Canada, guys, I was an international student. I came with my wife and my daughter at the time, not having any idea of what the credit system was like, and not having anybody to guide us or to steer us in the direction of the do's and don'ts of the credit system. Of course, we made a lot of mistakes. And I'm going to be sharing those mistakes with you guys. So you guys, one, don't make the same mistakes that I made. And two, if you have made the same mistakes, how can you improve and grow and excel past those mistakes and give yourself the best chance to succeed, right? Now, in Canada, not having credit, in other words, no credit, is just as bad credit. When you don't have any credit in Canada, it negatively affects you just as much as you having bad credit. So one of the first things that you need to do as a new immigrant when you make this transition to Canada is to find out how you can start building your credit and what are the best ways that you can do so, right? Now, I was not fortunate enough to have the guidance from an early onset, and most of what I've learned is over time. My job, I've worked in the financial industry since being in Canada. So my occupation here in Canada is a banker. I have been in the financial industry for most of my tenure here in Canada, serving a number of different roles, from financial advisor to senior financial advisor to manager to different sales and service teller. I've done it all. And those jobs gave me the knowledge that I now have that I'm sharing with you guys for free, right? So take that with a grain of salt. Now let's start with some of the mistakes that I made when I moved to Canada. Now I had some bad habits from back in Jamaica where I had a credit card. I usually max out that credit card. I usually make the minimum payments on that credit card, and oftentimes I sometimes miss the minimum payment on that credit card back in Jamaica. And then apart from the bank calling you and asking you for a payment, there's not a real impact on your life or your credit score as per se. So when I made the transition to Canada, I started doing the very same thing. I got a credit card because as a student, you can get a credit card with just your study permit at most banks. It's going to be a small balance, but it gives you the opportunity to start building your credit. But you have to make sure that you are doing the right habits to start building your credit score. Otherwise, it will negatively affect you, right? So that being said, we got a credit card. We went to the bank. I got myself a credit card. I'm feeling very good. I started spending. Still having the same bad habits from Jamaica where I maxed out the credit card and then I was only making the minimum payment. Now, if it is that you make your minimum payment on your credit card to yourself, you might be saying, at least I'm making my payments, right? Which is good. But you also have something that affects your credit score that's called credit utilization. Now, credit utilization is like a pool. You have access to this amount of credit. How much have you used? If you have used in excess of 75% to 80%, it means that you're overly reliant on credit. and then that negatively affects your credit score. So apart from missing your payment, your credit utilization also play a big factor in your overall credit score, which I didn't know. So whilst I was maxing out my credit card, making the minimum payment, I was still close to 100% credit utilization at the time, because remember now that that credit card was my only credit here in Canada at the time. So my credit score was being affected. And I didn't even really knew at the time, because as I said, I didn't even know that that credit score was so important until when I applied for my first bank job and they ran my credit and saw that my credit was 500. Now, if you have a 500 credit score, guys, the maximum is 900, right? So if you have a 500 credit score, you might be saying, oh, but I'm more than 50%. But in truth and in fact, anything underneath 600 is really considered to be poor credit, right? Anything between 600 and 650 is considered to be bad credit. Like it's still not good, but it's not poor, right? But it's not fair. Fair credit is anywhere between 650 to 700. That's when you say you have fair credit. And then you have decent credit between 700 to 800, and then you have excellent credit between 800 to 900. So ideally, you want to keep your credit score above that 700 mark. If you can get it over 750, that would be fantastic. Now, manage your credit card expertly, because that is what has a significant impact on your credit score, right? And that's something that I didn't know until way down. I started to realize that, yo, my credit is bad. And then once your credit goes bad, it's so hard to start building it up back. So you want to make sure that you're making the right decision. So how do you mitigate that now, guys? If you get yourself a credit card, right? Make sure that your utilization is underneath 75% of the card. So if it is that you can't pay off 100% of the card, make as much payment as possible to keep the balance underneath 75% utilization, and then that will cause your credit to continue to grow. A lot of persons think that if they make the minimum payment, it positively affect them, but it really doesn't, because your credit utilization will affect you even worse. Now, the other thing that I didn't really understand was the phone plan. Now, coming from Jamaica, where you buy a phone cash oftentimes, and then you just get a phone card as needed. You put on your data or you use Wi-Fi, different things, right? But here in Canada, the vast majority is postpaid, meaning that you get a phone on a plan, you get a plan with a company, and then you pay a monthly bill. Now, we ended up doing that because we needed phones and we didn't come with an abundance of cash. So we had to take out phones and a plan and get like our everything. But what we didn't understand was that when you miss a payment, it significantly affects your credit as well. Now, when you make your payment to your phone plan adequately and everything is good, it doesn't really benefit your credit, to be honest. But if you miss your payment, and especially if you go into collections and that phone plan, it affects you drastically over the next immediate future, right? So make sure that you're making your phone plan payments, and if you fall behind, you clear it up as quickly as possible. Never allow your phone plan to go into collections, because that will drastically affect your credit score. Now, our phone, because we still had bad habits from Jamaica, where you juggle money, you choose between paying your credit card bill or your grocery bill, different things you have to flex, and you might miss your water bill for a couple of days, and you might miss your light bill for a couple of days, and those habits, right? So we brought those habits to Canada when we just came here, before we started to understand how the system actually worked. And as I said, we didn't really have anybody to really break it down for us and show us the ins and the outs and stuff like that. So we were like doing the same thing, because of course Nas was working multiple jobs. I was going to school full time. Cash was a scarce commodity at that point in time. So there's a lot of times when we had to choose to pay the phone bill, or to buy extra food for Malika, or to buy diaper for Malika, or to pay, different things like that. We had to make those tough decisions. So because of that, that caused both of our credits to go down drastically. So another thing that we ended up had to do was we ended up taking our furniture on credit, because again, we didn't come with a lot of money. So because we had to move into our own apartment very quickly after come landing, we didn't have that cushion that allowed us to save and bill and buy things cash, like many of you guys will and have, we had to take most of our furniture on credit at the time. So then we had a lot of bills in the onset of our journey. So we had furniture bill, we had a car bill, we had insurance bill, we had utility bills, we had phone bill, we had credit card bill. There was just an over reliance on credit at that point in time, which comes to my next point. My next point is to live as basic as possible until you're able to afford it. So if it is that you're a newcomer and you don't have a lot of cash, I would say start with the basic. Start with the basics. Buy it off marketplace, buy it secondhand, but whatever you have to do, rather than taking furniture and credit, because that was something that we actually regretted as well, in the sense that we ended up paying a lot more than the furniture was costing and stuff like that because of what we deemed as comfort. So we really should have just been uncomfortable in our little situation, tough it out, get a bed here, get a TV there, get a that there, and stuff like that. But in retrospect, all of those things teach us what we know now that we're able to share with you guys as well. So you have to be making smart financial decisions, not to overutilize your credit. Make sure that you're paying all your bills on time. And if you even fall behind, never let it go to collections. Whatever you do, never let your bills go to collections or let your bills be written off. Because when those things happen, it affects you for years in the future, right? Now, our credit score was going down and down and down and down because we also had the bad habit from Jamaica where we would take a credit to pay out a credit, take a credit to pay out a credit, take a credit to pay out a credit. So you're always in debt. You're always just like going into a loophole, like you're just constantly going through a loophole kind of thing. So we had to make the decision that, hey, no more debt because our credit score was taking a nosedive, right? And we landed in 2019 and then COVID 2020, 2021. And then I finished school April of 2021, and then I was able to start working full time that year. And that was when we actually started building. We started building because I was now able to work full time. Both of us now working, more income coming in. We're able to clear up some bills and get ourselves out of the rut. And that is why when we tried to buy our house the first time, we were not approved because our credit was not where it's supposed to be as yet because it takes a while for you to build back your credit to where it should be, right? So what we did, we started making sure that we don't overutilize our credit. And if we use our credit card, we pay it back. If we can't pay it in full, we pay at least 75% of what the bill is, right? We also don't take more credit than we need. And whatever credit we have, we make sure that we make our payment on time and in full, as well as our utility bills. We make sure that we pay our utility bills on time and in full. And if we even fall behind, we pay it off as quickly as possible. And we started keeping a very close eye on our credit. And that is how we're able to improve our credit here in Canada. Now, again, guys, your credit score determines the type of job you get. There are some jobs, especially in the financial industry, that is going to do a credit check before you are hired. So if it is that you have bad credit, then you are not going to be able to get that job. There are some apartments that does a credit check before you are admitted or accepted into the apartment building. So your credit determines where you live. Your credit determines where you work. Your credit determines the type of car you drive. Your credit determines if you can get a mortgage, if you can get a house, all of these things, right? So don't make the same mistakes that we did. As new immigrants, we don't understand that credit is very important. And a lot of us have bad habits from our home country. So acknowledging that we have these bad habits is one thing, but actually doing something to shed it and to fix it is another thing. And which is why I hope that videos like these really help, where I share my own experience and what I did wrong, so that you guys who are just coming and you guys who are here newly will understand what it takes to improve your credit. And again, guys, I'm talking to you based on my experience, but also based on my work experience being a senior financial advisor as well. All right, guys, if you like this video, please let me know by liking the video. If you like this kind of content, please let me know in the comment section. If you want to have more financial advice, financial tips, let me know if this is something that you're interested in. and most importantly, subscribe, subscribe, subscribe. Thank you guys so much for watching this very short video. See you guys in the next one.